Right. I should just say that following on from some of the comments we've had already, I can confirm the book isn't dead yet, coming from the library. Last year we had about 2 million book loans from our staff, students and external visitors. So we're still seeing, although we're anticipating and building up for the sort of digital future for information resources for books particularly, the demand is still there, so we are having to meet it. And having heard a lot today so far about the virtual environment and the physical environment, I'm kind of going to straddle both, which I think is where our libraries sit now. We've got a foot in each camp. So, right, this is kind of what I'm going to talk about. Really, it's about how the libraries are supporting teaching and learning, about how we're supporting our students and also the staff in that area. So, we're going to talk about changing roles, how the library staff are doing different things now, how we're developing different skills, working in different ways. So we'll look at what's happened with what might have been called subject expertise. We'll look at collection development and also our customer services, our frontline staff. We'll look at the changing learning environment. So that's changed a lot. The environment in which we operate is very different now. Students do need more support. They don't always realize it. It ties in with some of the stuff that Bernadette was saying actually about digital professionalism. On the other side of that, we might call things like digital literacy or information literacy. And there's been report after report saying what we already know. Students actually think they're quite proficient with this stuff, but there's actually quite big gaps in their knowledge. So we're having to offer more support to students in navigating the sort of digital environment. And also as King's moves towards technology-enhanced learning, has there been much on Keats? Said much?
We haven't
not really mentioned the Keats, okay. I'll just touch on really what we're doing. King's relaunched its virtual learning environment just this past academic year, so that's all very new. We're doing a lot to offer support there as well. So it's really just about being in the virtual environment as well as in the physical. And then I'm going to talk a bit about space as well. I'm quite glad to see that Ian and I won't really be overlapping. We might have a couple of the same pictures, but apart from that, I'm going to come at it from a slightly different angle. So, to start with, I'm going to talk about changing roles. And I'm actually going to talk first about my team, which is the Research and Learning Liaison team. And this is somewhere where perhaps I'm more aware of it because I look after the team, but where the role has really changed enormously in recent years. I've put up the term here, subject specialists, and which isn't actually what we call these staff, but the role has become from knowing about your subject, so knowing about, say, history or medicine, to actually really being someone who engages with liaison, with support, with training. I can obviously see Karen, who's our biomedical sciences librarian, running a training session, which is what she spends a huge amount of her time doing now. So, traditionally, someone would have had an in-depth knowledge of their subject. So if it was a medical librarian, they would have sat there, they would have gone through catalogues, they would have built that collection. Now, we don't do so much of that, actually. We're moving on, and again, it's necessitated because so many of our collections are electronic, the environment is more complex, it's more difficult for students to navigate, so we need to give them more support. So, what are we on? We're talking about, whereas let's take the example I've just shown, our biomedical librarian. A few years ago, the person doing that job spent a lot of their time ordering books, selecting what we actually put in. Now, they are engaged, it's about relationships, it's about promotion, it's about liaison, it's about support, and it's about training. Much more so than actually building collections. Although we still do that, it's that we've had to find more efficient ways to do that, and ways to do that just free up our time to support students. So they will go to education committees, staff student committees. They really are the voice of, they should be anyway, the voice of the library in the academic department and the voice of the academic department back in the library. So it's really making sure that everything we do is in line with what our students need. So, and actually, this is something I'm actually quite proud of. Almost every member of the team either has or is working towards postgraduate teaching qualifications. They do the same qualifications as our new members of academic staff. So we're not suggesting that the training and the teaching and the support they give is of any less a standard. We're putting them through the same professional qualifications. And collection development, now we share out. It's much more of a shared activity. We share it with academic schools, with information resources staff, so the staff who actually do the ordering and build relationships with suppliers, and actually just the library users as well. So just with a little bit more on that, we've actually moved with ebooks, and this is probably something that's going to grow and going to change. We've moved into what's called patron-driven acquisition. So our users, our staff, our students actually decide what we buy now, and they don't even know they're doing it. So we make available a portfolio of ebooks, and they look at them, and we pay every time they look at something, we pay. After a certain number of uses, that triggers a purchase, and it's added electronically to our collection. So without even knowing it, our students now are actually selecting what goes into the library. And that's proved incredibly popular. Actually, I'll go on to my next slide just to show how popular that's been. If you look at the light blue is this academic year so far. The dark blue is last academic year. And that's the demand for this service. So it's actually in November, in sort of October, November, we're actually seeing a tripling of the use. So by actually doing that, we're giving them what they want in a way that we maybe never could. And certainly we haven't had a chance to do any analysis on this, but other universities have. And these books are often the most used in the portfolio because it's the students and it's the staff knowing actually what they want. So, and in that we've made interlibrary loans free. And again, it's been about freeing up staff time so they can support our students. But King's is still a research university. We still need to have research library collections, be they electronic or physical. In fact, the demand is still for both. We keep thinking the demand for the print will diminish, but certainly for books it hasn't. Journals, it's gone. Journals, completely electronic. Like Ian said, we've participated in some national initiatives that may have made us able to get rid of an awful lot of our print journals while still preserving across the country. So we're also considering approval plans where we actually moved selection of stock just to our suppliers. We'll set criteria, so we'll say that modern history, modern English history between certain dates, actually that's a key strength. Please buy everything over a certain level. Or we might say within pediatrics, actually for these publishers we'll buy everything. So we can just set criteria. Our suppliers will do it. The books will just arrive. It's a little bit of a risk because we have to monitor how much that's actually going to cost us. But the amount of staff time we could free up to then be really in and working with students and supporting them is actually quite exciting. So, there's the graph again. Right, our frontline staff, our customer services staff, traditionally you tell people you work in a library, they think two things. They think you spend all day reading, and they think when you're not reading, you're actually stamping books. None of us spend any of our time doing that. No. There was a point when we would have had some staff who probably spent quite a lot of time stamping books. But now, if you see the picture on the left, we've installed self-service kiosks through all our libraries. We've got about 95%, I think, at the last count, of our transactions have now moved completely to self-service. So what we're doing is actually doing more of what you see on the right. So we're doing a lot more in terms of working with students, supporting them, being available for inquiries. So that's involved actually a fairly major restructure of our customer services team within the library, bringing together two teams, one with site services, which was very much that transactional stuff. They were the people stamping books. And we're merging that with the inquiries team, who's the team that would have been there for wherever students had problems. So by email, instant message, phone, and in person, they can just come and actually contact somebody. So emphasis on support, much less on stamping books. Don't stamp books anymore. So, and we're actually as well working this year to achieving the UK Government's Customer Service Excellence Award. This is, if you like, the gold standard, the absolute top thing that's been set by the UK government, although you don't need to be a governmental body to apply. And it's really if we go through this, we get the award. We're proving not just to our users, but also to ourselves that we're actually delivering a really good service. So it's something our students will see and know, but also I think something that we'll know. Because even if we've got a plaque on the wall, if a student doesn't feel they're getting a good service, they're not really going to believe it. So I think it has to be really ingrained within us. Right. So, but we're also working in a changing learning environment. So we've talked about the need to support technology-enhanced learning, and also just really about the way it's changing, the way the curriculum's changing, and us just making sure we keep up with that. So we've had a new VLE this year, and certainly there have been benchmarks set. Every course at King's has to be represented in the virtual learning environment now. There have been minimum benchmarks set, and students are using it, and they expect that the library stuff will be there. So we've done a few things. We've got a new reading list service, and we're also developing our digital course pack service as well. So that's where we can have digital copies of book chapters and journal articles actually just available for a click. So the students don't actually have to come to the library to get it, even though they still do. So I've got a link there. I won't show you that because I know we're a little bit running.
Don't worry.
No. And we're also developing modules in the virtual learning environment. So a lot of that support, that training that we're delivering in person, we're also developing throughout throughout KEATS, which is what King's is calling its virtual learning environment. So we're there where they're getting their course information. So while we are doing some standalone stuff, what we're really working to do is to include our guidance, our support that we know the students need, alongside everything else that they're getting from their lecturer. So it's not separate, it's all in one place. And the thing with this, our new reading list service as well, is it's just a way of enabling academics to put together reading lists. Actually, I will, if I've got time. I'm not completely caught up. Right, so what you can actually see we've got is a reading list for this particular module. It's called Moments of Culture. And you see week by week, each of the readings is set out. So the lecturer has been able to come in, do this themselves, make it available to students, and if they just click on something, it comes through, and you just see on the right, it actually tells them, they can immediately see where it is in the library, where they need to go. If it's an electronic, if it's something that's electronic, they'll just get the links directly there, so they can so for electronic, they could just go through it directly. And I won't go any further with this. I'm unfettered from the thing. Okay, so these are just some of the things we've been doing. That's based on some new software from a company called Talus, and it's proving pretty successful so far. So, we've talked about physical. We've talked about virtual. Just to talk about physical. We've got some images here of the Mon Library, which is just across a little bit across the road. It's our biggest library. It's certainly our most iconic in terms of the actual building. You see it on all of the King's publicity. It was built in the 1850s as the Public Records Office. King's have had it as a library only since about 2001. Is that right?
I can't remember, about 2001 even.
Yeah, 2001. So it looks terribly traditional. And we do have this wonderful round reading room that the students absolutely love. For all our talk of building new, innovative environments with funky furniture, they actually have to say, really love this as well. They kind of want everything. So we've got 6 libraries all across London. So going from Denmark Hill up here, Waterloo, everywhere else, plus special collections and archives reading rooms. Around 2 million printed volumes, access to about 50,000 journals, And while electronic books and journals are increasing massively in popularity, and I think we've seen a big jump this year because so many of our students have tablets. So whereas before they didn't really want to read on screen, I think now they tend to have tablets, they've got iPads, they've got Android tablets. They're much more comfortable doing that. So we're actually seeing quite a big demand for ebooks. That's really gone up, which is really good. We're very, very pleased to see that. However, we're still getting massive demands in the physical space. So 1.5 million visits annually. That's greater than the population of most cities. And around 2 million books. I mentioned that earlier. So physically, we've still got quite a heavy demand. So these are sort of some of the challenges we've got. There's a lot of demand on space because the student numbers are increasing, as I'm sure you've heard lots and lots about. Increasing need for collaborative space, for technology, for Wi-Fi, funky stuff. But actually, when we go to committees, when we talk to students, their number one complaint is always that the libraries are too noisy. So it's a balance. It's not that we just need one or the other. It's that we need both, and we need to figure out ways to do it. And again, as Ian said, we're in central London. We can't just easily expand. So some of the things we've been doing, developing group space, looking at rooms, looking at pods. We've seen a couple of pictures already. But maintaining that silent study space as well. We're aiming for 100% Wi-Fi coverage. We're pretty much there, but it does fall down sometimes. The problem with Wi-Fi, we find, is that we're running to keep up. Because once we sort of thought we were at the point where we were meeting Wi-Fi coverage, but then all of a sudden, students come in with a laptop, with a tablet, with a smartphone. I was going to say stealing, that's a terrible way to say it. They're taking 3 IP addresses as they come in, because they've now got 3 devices they're coming in with. So we're having to up the capability all the time. And it's probably not going to get any better, so it's really just blanketing the whole place in Wi-Fi. There's a real need for technology, and they don't actually always want to bring their laptops with them. So they can borrow laptops in the library, and we've even now this year moved that on to self-service as well. So as long as they know their account details and they've got their card, they can just come to the library and borrow a laptop for a few hours or even for a day. And we've also, this is one of the last things I'm going to talk about, we've got a new zoning policy as well. Fine for time.
What does that mean?
I'm going to talk about that in just a sec. So we've just got some images of some of the library spaces we've got. You might have had some of these pictures, Ian, but so we've got some space around. I think these are all actually from the Waterloo Library around the side, so you can see the sort of new space we've put in, the more social space, and the more sort of collaborative space. The students can work together, they can be a bit more informal. But also right in the middle, we've got the round reading room in the Mon. They still want silent traditional study space as well. So we need to reflect that both. And the balance will vary across our campuses, because it really depends a lot on the nature of the subject. So where we have a lot of medical students, we're going to have more group study space because of the nature of the way things are taught. Where we've got a lot of humanities students, we're going to give them more silent individual study space. But it's a balance, there'll be needs for both. And we're looking at ways we can be flexible about that as well, so that perhaps a group study room can become an individual silent study room around exam times. It's that kind of thing as well. So, and someone asked about zoning. When Ian showed the sort of life cycle going around the sort of academic thing where you sort of had user discovery, analysis, and that sort of thing, we've looked at that. We've tried to bring it down into something that we thought we could use around the libraries. So we've kind of simplified it. And we've got 3 zones now. If you go into the library, anywhere, any room you go into, will be in one of these 3 zones. We try to keep it fairly simple. So within those 3 zones, we've got 3, if you like, areas of, I don't want to say rules, but I think maybe I will, of rules. And it goes around talking, phones, food. So we've got the silent space. No noise, keep your phones off or on silent, no food. And just really silent individual study. We then got quiet, where perhaps people could talk to each other a little bit quietly, discreetly use their phone, and maybe bring in some cold snacks. And then we've got the discuss. So your group study, you can work together, you can use your phone. I won't say anything goes, but it's a lot more, it'll be noisy, it'll be boisterous, it'll be a bit more interesting. So these are actually some bookmarks we've done just to launch this as an idea, really, so that students can really get it. So that's where I've grabbed the artwork from. So when I talk about zoning, that's what we've done. Every space in our library now falls into one of these three zones. So we've been clearer, hopefully, to students about what they can and can't do within the different areas. And we've got areas, so if we've got someone in a quiet zone and they're working together, we can send them to one of the group study, one of the discussion zones. So we're never asking people to leave, we're not asking people not to do what they're doing, we're just saying, can you go and do that somewhere else, please? Because this is for people to work quietly. So by doing that, it's clear, it's simple, and hopefully it seems to be working. So that's what we're doing in terms of zoning. That's really all I was going to say. I've got you up.